Hello and welcome back to the channel. We're going to be talking about meta, at least the off-meta stuff that I'm pretty much obsessed with. I would love for there to be an MMO at which you could build off-meta stuff and not be treated like garbage. Like, unlike WoW, where you build wrong and you're treated like garbage. Or, just any multiplayer game in general, MMO in general, where you build something you want to build for fun, and you treat it like garbage because, it's more fun to tear you down than actually give you criticism or value what you're doing. An example of this is me trying to go into a bear healer, as a tank, just trying to out-heal healers as a tank, to me is a funny idea. But because it wasn't as effective as I wanted it to be, and in order for me to make it as effective as I can, I had to put 3 points into a talent, but if I did that, I would be missing out half my resistance, half my mitigation rotation, half my mitigation stuff, which would make me less effective a tank, which means I would probably just die faster. Well, stuff like that. Punishing people for wanting to do something fun. I understand why you have to limit things, because if not, the game will break down quickly. But that really shouldn't matter. Let me break the game. Be fun. Be fun for everyone to try and break the game more. They have the capability to nerf something if need be, or buff something if it becomes too weak. They can do that. They can hot fix all that. They've done it before. But Blizzard just lazy. Anyway, but the idea of what I want is a class system similar to WoW, where you have certain spells that are available to the class. The class plays a certain way, with different specs it has. But the talent tree of Path of Exile, built the same little way, where you start off on one part of the skill tree, and you can go anywhere you want as long as you have the points to get there. And I feel like that'd be fun, combining different elements like area effect, or damage over time, or heal over time, or spell effect over time. Stuns last longer, melee damage does more, range damage does more, magical damage does more, healing does more, increasing numbers slowly over time, increasing stats over time, allowing you to just get different effects on your already pre-existing spells. You don't need to be having new spells, but they can make it with the spells do different things, like turn Wrath into have Wrath when it hits you. It does nature damage, but also does that'll bring back the elemental effect stuff, which I don't think they're ever going to do. But it does the base damage, but then it adds a slow. If it had frost attached to it, it adds a frost stack, so you slow it down a little bit. You also had it with fire, so it also put the burn on you, stuff like that. Because the balancer dipped into the mage side of the tree. So now the druid has all these extra effects going off on his spells. Neat little thing. The camera's the way it is right now is because I don't want to film what's in front of me right now, because I don't think I should. Plus, it gives you some nice scenery. I'm also drinking water because I have to, because if I don't, I'm going to probably pass out. Because the longer I stay up, the more dehydrated I get, which probably is a sign that I need to sleep, but it's fine. Caffeine be enough eventually, because I might end up having to have a second energy drink to stay awake tonight. I don't know what I'm doing tonight, though. That's the fun part. Back to meta. I like building things off meta. League of Legends, back in the early seasons, I would constantly build different things, like how make a ADC a tank. Just put on, back when lifesteal was a thing, put some lifesteal on the character, and then just sit there and stack a bunch of armor and stuff on them just to make them more annoying. Rammus, AP Rammus, or what was it? It was oh, that's right, attack speed Nautilus. So the idea of attack speed Nautilus is that you would build a few attack speed items, and then stack everything else as an on-hit basic attack effect. And just have Nautilus chase people down and beat them to death with melee attacks. It wouldn't proc his stun effect, his snare effect with his passive, but everything else going off. It just made it where if he does hit you, you're just gonna get you could lose a good chunk of your health before you can get away from him just beating you over the head. AP Nautilus support was a fun bit for a little bit. That's right. This became more of a meta thing for a bit, but it's Nautilus, so not many people were playing to begin with. It was right after they buffed his hook damage to where his AP scaled better with his hook, and I was popping people with hooks, throwing hooks at people and just killing them. Fun little thing. Also, I've tried him with other things such as a attack damage support, where I was basically brawling. My goal was to brawl people like Braum would in bot lane. Fun stuff. Other games I like to try doing off meta stuff. ESO is like the ultimate game if you want to do an off meta build and still progress, because if there's an idea of a game style, play style you want to play as, there's bound to be a build that someone either made a while ago, made recently, is using currently, or you can find your own version of it you can do. Because a lot of the builds are reliant on two things. One is the armor sets that you can find throughout all aspects of the game, whether it be crafted sets, dungeon sets, delve sets, world sets, monster sets, raid sets, PvP sets, and so on. A lot of the sets you can make yourself and just have fun. Other ones you have to do a little bit of farming to get set the right style. Sorry, not the right style. The right type of armor and the right stats on it. Well, the stats kind of universal, but it comes down to the right piece with the right armor type attached to it. Because there's 3 armor types in ESO: light, medium, and heavy. And it's never fun to farm a set and then the last piece you need keeps dropping the wrong armor type. Never fun. You still get the full bonus, but you would lose any bonuses you have if you put points into the armor trees. The armor trees are fun because they give you, depending on how many points you put into them, it will drastically change how you view armor. You can honestly just play the entire game not putting any points into the armor trees and just let that be. But if you do put skill points in the armor trees, they can make your build you're playing as better. Like light armor, well, the more pieces of light armor you have, the faster your magicka regenerates. When you do a power attack or when you generate it over time, I can't remember exactly what it does. Stamina, medium will increase stamina, and health will just make it the heavy will just make it where you don't take damage. You roll the wall. I also would maxing out the heavy armor would make it where you use stamina slower when you run. Not by much, but enough to make it worth getting. Especially if you feel like you can be running around a lot on foot. There's all kinds of different builds. Just depending on what you are looking to do, and because the way the gear stuff works and the set items work, you need it to complete a full set item, a full armor set. You just need 5 pieces of it, and it can be weapons, armor, or jewelry if you can make jewelry or get someone to make it for you. And then you can get a second set on you as well. If you have the 2-hand weapons, because dual weapons were overpowered with the fact that you could have you have a different armor set per weapon, or 2 of the same armor set on the same on the both one of each, on each the weapon, so one point of the armor set on each weapon. They made it where 2-hand weapons now count towards 2 of the 5 set, which is very useful. That's pretty much every weapon beside daggers and one-handed weapons. It's great. It's great. So in total, you can have two complete sets on your character at one time, interact with each other, that opens up so many things. Especially if you start throwing other aspects like the Mundus Stones. There's a set of armor that lets you have two Mundus Stones active on you at the same time. And the Mundus Stones have their own passives that can drastically change how your character operates. And having two of them just makes it, you get double the bonus, double the interaction. Then there's enchantments that you can do. Enchanting isn't really that big of a deal. Well, enchanting isn't that big of a deal when it comes to customization. You don't need to enchant stuff, but if you do, it gives you extra. You mainly enchant for extra stamina, extra magicka, or you enchant for extra health, or just wherever your goal is, that you put the enchantments as the stopgap, or the extra stuff to get that goal going. So if you're constantly wanting to cast spells, or not have to worry about dying, or move around real fast, you use the enchantments to do most of that extra heavy lifting. It's neat. I'm not very good at explaining how the system works, obviously, but it's fun. It allows people who really want to just customize a character to play a certain way. It lets them just do what they want, and it's fun. I do recommend it, and it's more flexible than WoW ever will be, because they can just always put a new armor set into the game. They can just do that. WoW can't do that without putting in a whole new dungeon or a new raid, and then having you farm stuff. Which is how they play. Is how they do stuff. But anything newly put in the game is always going to be considered better than the previous stuff. Like the tiers, the raid tiers. You don't see people. They made it where unless you have the very best version of a tier set from the previous raid. This was more of a thing in Legion, where you could get a piece of tier to proc and be like a level 14 mythic version of itself, or be a level 14 version of itself, or I'm explaining it wrong. You could get a tier set from looking for raid to proc 14 times and be the equivalent of you going into mythic and getting that same tier set piece. That's how very insane the tier set was. Farming tier sets were for Legion, and if you somehow managed to get a tier set that high, you could continue wearing that long after the next raid started. The next tier set was available. That was kind of the case for some. There was only one class in Legion, I think, that actually that was stuck using a previous tier set because its passives were just so much better than the next set, to the point where Blizzard had to make the last set of the tiers so much better to finally get Warlocks to drop the second raid's tier set. It was bad. It was bad. I don't know. Just playing off meta is just fun for me when it comes to games that actually have a meta. And to me, a meta is any game that has constant updates and has a multiplayer aspect to it. Oblivion does not have a meta. Oblivion is a single player game. There is no meta. There is never going to be a meta. Stop referring to, oh, this is meta. No, it's not. It's just a game. It's just a single player game. You're not competing against anyone. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. Now, if you're playing Oblivion as a speedrunner, then yes, then you can say this is a meta build, because then you're actually doing a competition. Meta is for competition of some sort, some kind of competitiveness. It annoys me when I try to watch an Oblivion video or read something about Oblivion, and it's someone mentioning, oh, this is the new meta for Oblivion. It's this, so you can get through Kavach. We're switching up topics. Kavach, the city that you find Martin, the first city that suffered the Oblivion crisis. everyone there's so many people on the Oblivion subreddit. I hate the Oblivion subreddit. Right when the remake came out, the Oblivion subreddit became full of these kind of people and it continues to have people like this posted there, to the point where the moderators actually went through and started banning people who keep posting stuff like that, warning people, hey, don't go to Kvatch past this level, it's not going to be fun, it's too hard. It's annoying. It's flat out annoying. Let players do what they want. Let players go to Kvatch at level 30. Let them go. They want a PAL level and go to Kvatch, let them go. Let them do it. Let them go do it. People saying, oh, do this. And the other people saying, oh, here's the meta way, the glitch. Here's a glitch that Bethesda never patched. You know? You just go behind this goblin in the tutorial and you sit there and crouch forever and, you know, you just level up sneak to 100. You don't want to do that. But it's not a glitch, it's an exploit. It's an exploit. A glitch is a circumstance that has a set amount of things. Has something you have to do in order to trigger a event or some kind of in-game response that was never meant to happen. Ideally, the double-clicking the spell scroll in your inventory, and then if you have multiples of them, like let's say you have 5 spell scrolls of the same kind in your inventory, you double click them, double equip them, and then drop a random, just like a helmet or something, and you get 5 helmets instead of just the 1. That's because the game, when you go over spell scroll, the way the game works is the spell scroll is considered a consumable, but because the consumable does not activate until you cast it, the consumable disappears from your inventory. Well, the game views it as no longer in your inventory. That even though it's there, it's on the back end gone. Let's leave it that way. The UI sees it, the back end doesn't. There we go. And then when you hit it again in the inventory, it reproduces the item. But during that time, before it registers that you no longer have it equipped on the menu, you know, the spell scroll menu, the spellcasting menu, you're able to drop it. You're able to drop another item, which would then trigger the game to think that you dropped all the spell scrolls, because that was a consumable that you equipped somehow and then dropped. That's the best way I can explain how it works, and that's a glitch. That's not an exploit, that's a glitch. Or, you know, the GTA 4, driving your car into the swing set and being launched over the island, the first island. That's a glitch, an exploit. Being able to if you shoot someone with a rocket launcher at just the right angle, and you're able to crash their Xbox, that's a glitch. An exploit would be shooting the rocket launcher at someone and making them. Actually, that's. Is that an exploit? Huh. Oh no. Oh, it was an exploit. Friendly fire. And so, if you played GTA 4 in free roam, you could set it to where friendly fire was off, which means players could not kill each other. But what players could do was kill each other using explosions. Not by not them taking direct damage, but they took fall damage. So what you do is get RPGs, and you just sit there and blow each other up over and over again. Or you pick a target and just keep knocking them around an area until they died from fall damage. Or gravity damage, as they get slammed into buildings and whatnot. That was an exploit. It was a glitch because you didn't have a chance for it not to work. this is an exploit because it's repeatable. It happens every time, the same way every time, and it was not intended at all. And just, I don't know. I get, when I hear people use terms wrong, I kind of get mad. I probably because I don't know, maybe I have something undiagnosed. I don't know. What I do know is I like it when people use the terms correctly. Like someone who wanted me to make a game with them. It was never going to happen, but in the swing around the idea was neat. They described they wanted ready for this, a turn-based, real-time strategy, isometric, top-down, .4x arcade shooter. A lot of those words don't go together. And a lot of the words are just basically redefining or re-explaining something else that already exists in the thing. Isometric. That's, that's, that weird 2.5 degree. At a slight angle. Then you had top down. Well, that doesn't work at all because it means you're looking straight up now. Real-time strategy. Okay, that means constant. That's constant going. Turn-based. Oh, there goes turn-based. Real-time strategy. They don't go together. 4x. Do you know what a 4x game is? It's like the game X, the X games for PC. It's a space game. Essentially, you're able to explore, expand. I want to say exterminates one, but I don't think exterminates one of the 4X's. And then there's the 4th X. I don't know what it is. Essentially, look up the 4X's of game, the 4X of gaming, and it will go over what they are. But it doesn't lend well to arcade shooter. Or someone using a term incorrectly to describe something, such as trying to explain to someone what a kamikaze pilot is. This TJ 4 was a weird time. And them thinking that kamikaze is the type of plane they flew. And so they start referring to that plane as a kamikaze plane instead of a kamikaze pilot. Titles matter, I guess. I don't know. This video is getting off topic by a lot. It's supposed to be off meta, but off topic seems to be more than what I end up going for. Anyway, you guys have fun. Thanks for watching. If you watched it, if you didn't, well, you didn't, so you won't hear me say thank you. Have a good one. Goodbye.